Welcome back, guys. I'm Zell, and today we have a Kershaw Emerson 4KXL with awful blade centering, but we're going to fix it. I've been through 3 of these knives. We'll talk a little more about that after we get it fixed, but for now, why don't you come on in here a little closer and we'll take this thing apart and fix it. Alright guys, so here it is. This is the Kershaw Emerson CQC-4KXL. As you can see, the blade centering is way off. So what do we do to fix it? I have tried every trick in the book that you can find on the internet, and loosening things up, moving it around, messing with a pivot screw. Nothing works. This one we will fix though, I guarantee you. The first thing that I had to do with this knife is this thing was getting like 7/8 lockup, maybe even a little more. The frame lock was going way over here. So the first thing I did was simply hold this bar out a little bit and bend it to where whenever we put it back together here in a minute, it will have about 50% lockup. Well, without further ado, let's take it apart and see what the real problem is. First, we'll take our pivot screw out. Then we have 3 Phillips screws back here that go through a spacer and into the stainless scale of the knife. Okay, with all of the screws out, we can lift our G10 off. Then we can lift our inner liner. We can get a good look at the inside of this. It is not skeletonized, and right there fell one of our problems. These little bitty washers in this big old knife. There are our offenders. If you can see there, both of those little washers are out of round, out of shape, and I bet if we stick a nice solid set of washers in there that we can straighten this knife up. So that's what we're going to do. So I measured the pivot screw, which was approximately 5mm, and the thickness of the washers, which were approximately 0.021 of an inch. I didn't worry too much about the outside diameter of the washers because this knife has quite a bit of room in it for the washer. So the first thing I came up with were these Traxxas washers. They're a fiber washer, supposed to be self-lubricating, that my son uses on his RC cars. And they're a pretty tough looking little washer. I have a couple of them already set out here for us. That's what they look like. They're just little flat washers that go on the axles of some of the Traxxas RC vehicles. And you know, you don't have to use these particular washers. The part number for Traxxas is 1685, and it comes with several washers, all of them 5mm inside diameter, and some the size we're using here, and some a little bit smaller on the outside diameter. But you know, you can go to Knife Supply or take apart an old knife or whatever, as long as you can find the right size washer that's in good shape. So we're just going to pop a couple of these washers in this knife and put it back together and see if we can get it to straighten up. One note on reassembly here: this little pin, it's your stop pin for the blade. You got to make sure and get the long end there in the stainless handle material and not through the G10 side, or trust me, the knife will not go back together. Or it kind of will, but it won't be pretty. So we have our little Traxxas fiber washers that are nice and round and a consistent thickness in there. And from here we'll put the liner back on. Maybe we'll put the, there we go, the liner back on there. Put our piece of G10 back above it. And if I were going to do final assembly here, I would put just a little bit of blue Loctite on each one of these screws as I put them in. That way they will stay in place for you. And whenever you go to tighten the pivot screw, don't like gorilla torque it, but you can make it fairly tight. That way things will stay in place as you're putting together the rest of the knife. Then we have the liner piece. The best way I found to put these little guys in is to get them in there like this. Find one hole and get your screw started in it, and then let it hang out there just a little bit. Stick your next one in and push it in, and it should slide right in. And there we have all three of them back in. We can tighten those down. I would also blue Loctite these screws. Since this is an Emerson, the only tool you need is a number 2 Phillips and a small flat-bladed screwdriver to completely disassemble the knife. If we were working on any other Kershaw or virtually any brand of consumer level folding pocket knife, you would need some small Torx bits. So we've got it back together. It's a little tight right now, and we'll loosen that up, but as you can see, we're much better centered. So let's loosen up the pivot just a little bit, because this is an Emerson. We can't have the pivot extremely tight or the action won't work properly. So I'm going to set it here, see if I can get the pivot set at the proper tension. And I don't know if you can see that or not. I'll bring it back out here, but see, with the pivot loose, the blade pretty much rests against the liner. Take the pivot, tighten it up a bit, and we can get that blade off the liner. And we're still a little snug there. There we go. It's not exactly centered, but we may still have a little extra tension here from our lock bar. Let's see what we get. Well, the lock bar is right there at about 50%. That's about where I'd like to see it on a knife like this. Some other people want more, but you tend to get stiction whenever you get more, and that's where this lock bar gets stuck on the tang of the knife. Doesn't want to come loose. And I'm not doing anything hard use enough to require that sort of solid lockup, and if I'm going to, I have lock backs or a ball lock. There you have it, guys. It's not perfect, but it's a lot better than what Kershaw sent me. So I'll probably leave that a little tight, squirt a little ballistol down in there, and work the knife some and see how it turns out. But anyhow, we'll probably talk about this knife again soon, but I wanted to get this out there because of the problems I've had with the knife, and because I rather like the knife. So if we can find a fix for it, maybe Kershaw's listening and they'll fix it. Well, there you go, guys. That's really all it takes to fix one of these CQC-4KXLs. That little bag of Traxxas washers, under $2 on eBay or Amazon, or probably about that at your local hobby shop. It's a common washer for lots of different Traxxas vehicles, so it should be easy to get your hands on. And I've had this knife fixed now for several weeks and runs good. Blade centering on both the examples I have is pretty darn good. However, I didn't fix them both the same way. Let me get a close look here. This one has the Traxxas washers in it, and it runs pretty darn well. These Emerson knives, the thumb discs, are not in a good place for controlled opening, especially after they've been in your pocket for a little bit. They get a little sticky there. However, little wrist action flips good. This version of it had the same issue, and yeah, I ended up with two of them. Appreciate that, Kershaw. Gave me a chance to really dig in and figure out what was going on, and a chance to avoid my warranty by taking the knife apart. And this one is fixed with the bushings out of that Walmart knife. If you guys remember from a few weeks ago, I picked up that Walmart knife to show how the little gut hook thing on the Swiss Army knives would make getting the bubble packs open possibly a little easier. Not real sure that not just having a sharp knife is easier, but that did work. But those bushings fit this knife perfectly, and blade centers up extremely well, and the knife runs good. I'll roll in a shot of this knife with the Traxxas bushings in it coming out of the pocket and coming open here in just a moment. I just wanted you to know that if you don't have a hobby shop or you don't like to buy things online, you can go to your local Walmart for $3.80 some. You can pick up one of those Walmart knives and you have bushings to fix your 4KXL. Now, it was the brown flipper. I think that's the one that I got. You'll want to look back and check that video because I can't vouch for the other knives in the Walmart line, but that one had the right size bushings. Anyhow, we'll roll in that footage here. And I really appreciate you guys stopping by, watching on how to fix this knife. Now that we've got the knife fixed, we'll get to a review of it. And the review is going to be a little better than you might think it will be. However, Kershaw, I really, really hope you're listening out there. That was such an easy fix that somebody missed. You know, I've fixed the knife with a couple of bushings out of an RC car and a couple of bushings out of a $3.87 Walmart knife. I know you guys can do better. I've seen you guys do much, much better. How did this get through QC? And also, just a note, for those of you out there, all I can vouch for are knives that were purchased in December and then returned to me or sent to me from Kershaw in February. They may have updated their design. I don't know. Kershaw, if you'd like to get a hold of me and let me know if you've updated your design, the address is down in the description box, and you know how to get a hold of me through YouTube. Just give me something I can verify that it's you. Anyhow, everybody, have a great day. We've got a lot more in store, so don't forget to click that subscribe button and give it a like or share, and I'll see you next time.